Hi everyone, welcome back to Richard's Tech Tutorials. Today's episode we're going to be looking at ServiceNow skill kits. So what we're going to be doing is looking about how we can create a brand new skill for an application. So in this case we're going to build out an application using App Engine Studio, which you can see here. I've already created it. I've got a table within here. Now let's just come out of that for a sec. That has got 3 additional fields in it. That's query, query type and the response. So query is going to be what somebody's typing in. So it could come in via a chat, via an email, something along those lines. Query type, I wanted to have a drop down because what's going to happen here is we're receiving requests from all over the place and we're trying to get the AI to do some of the preliminary work here. So we're going to be creating an AI skill to do this. And I want it to classify the query that comes in to be whether it's a complaint or they're after some more information. And I'm also going to get it to give a response back for that as well. So that's what we've got here. So this is the response. I set it as a maximum size of 1,000, but you need to look at this and figure out what you want to do for your requirement. Now you could have it bring back a lot more information, maybe generate an email, do some other classification stuff. But we're keeping this nice and simple as part of this application. So that's my table. The first thing I did need to do though was to create a record. So as you can see, this button, we'll get onto that in a bit, that's a new button that we've got the skill attached to. So I've got my query, so I created a new query, so I said tell me more about ServiceNow and their AI capabilities. So we're going to get the LLM to go off and generate a response for us for that. So I needed to create at least one test case. Suggest you create a few. So when we're testing out the prompt that we're going to generate, we can see if it's coming back with consistent data or not. Right, okay, so that's our workspace. We'll get on to that a bit later. Apologies, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. Right, so what we've got here is we've got our skill kit application. So what we now need to do is we're now going to go, I've set up some forms as well. You know how to do it. If you're not sure how to do that, look at some of my other episodes where I run through all of that kind of stuff. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new skill. Now I've got one already defined and we're going to come back to that later because you'll see when we get into the button that you saw in the top right hand corner of that form, we need to put in a little bit of additional scripting to make it work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to step through the creation process for a new skill, and what we'll be doing is we'll be flipping back to this particular skill to grab the text. Just save me typing it in, you see me typing it, but we'll run through it all. So we're going to create a new skill. This is going to be called my general, helps if I can spell, general customer query skill. Now I would suggest you put a description in. I'm just going to copy and paste the name, and we're going to use the generic LLM. Now you can use the description to recommend which AI to use by ticking that box, and it will try and figure out, it will look at the description. So put a decent amount in the description, but if you know what you want to do, that's fine, you can just do that here. So we're going to create a skill. So the first thing you'll see here is obviously we're now looking at the prompt. Now when generating skills, the prompt is the thing, is effectively the query that we're sending to the LLM. Now you'll see in here we've got some curly braces with what look like table names and field names. This is how we pass information from the data table or another data source maybe that we're using, how we're passing that into the LLM prompt so that we can then pass it over to the LLM to then process. But the first thing we need to do is we need to create the skill input. Now you'll see there's none here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, you'll see there's a number of different data types here, simple array, record. We're picking record in this case. So obviously because my application is, I have the prefix XSNC because I work for ServiceNow. Yours will be different. Mine's going to be called my skill. There we go. So skill kit test application. My table was called client query, so we're going to pick that. We're going to leave the name as client query. We can put description. I'm going to make it mandatory because I definitely need that to make this work. And we're going to pick our test record. Now we don't have to pick it here. We can run a test and do it, but I always pick it here just as our test case. I'm going to add that skill input. So here we go, there's my client query input. Now, I'm just going to get rid of this this particular prompt, and I'm going to copy in the one that I've got here. So we'll just paste that in. Now, as you can see from this, I need to just change that. I made a mistake there. So your name. So in this particular prompt, I'm saying you're a helpful ServiceNow assistant. Your name is Ben. Now, when I do these, I generally give the skill, if you will, or the agent a name. The reason why I give it a name is if I want it to generate an email output, they generally come back as a little bit more personable. Because they'll say, hi, my name is Ben, blah, 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 blah. They'll go through that whole thing. So it's good to do that. Now, there are other ways of doing it. I'm not saying that's what you have to do. Play around with the prompt, try different things, and that's what the test button is for, so we can try out different things. Now, from the following query, now you'll notice I've got this here. To put that into my, let's just move that out of the way. So I can say here, if I say insert input, you'll see I've got the table, the records. So I can say click that, and I can say it's my query field. And as you can see, look, okay, put it at the end, but I can just literally cut that and put that where I want it, which is there. And I can close my braces off. So it's literally whatever skill input record type that we're using. In this case, it's called client query, and the field is query in this case. So that's how you insert the values from the various different data skill inputs that you want. And then we're going to class, and I want it to read that prompt, and I want to classify it as either information or complaint. Now, you remember back from when we went through the table, the query types that we had complaint or information. So there, we're going to use those to update this record when it comes back. So I want the LLM to give me specific data back. Now, I could do some translation of the data that comes back, but if you can get the LLM to do it in the right format for you, that's better, really. So let's just go back to our skill. I'm going to play it and provide an answer to the query. Now, return your answer in a well-formed JSON information format, something along those lines, and I've specified it by, I've given it a structure. I want it to come back as classification and answer. They're the two fields that I want to get it to come back with. I'm using JSON in this case rather than just text because it's then easier for me to parse that as part of a script. Now, if you've got layers of information, you'll find you can sort of give a generic kind of structure to what you want to come back with, but play around with it, run a number of tests, and just you'll figure out what works. There are some great courses on building prompts. I haven't gone through those myself. This is just from me playing with ChatGPT and Llama and working out what works for them. So maybe go and do one of those courses, or maybe if people are interested, let me know in the comments. We can go through some simple things on how to build prompts nice and quickly. So that's our prompt, nice and simple. Generally, the more guidance and information you give the LLM in the form of the prompt, the more it will come back with what you want. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our test. Remember from before, it was called Query 101. We're going to run that test. So it's going to pass that information over to the LLM using a thing. And as you can see, it's come back with a nice piece of JSON with classification and the answer. And it's got all of that information in here for us. So that's great. That's what I want. It told me, use 256 tokens, 186 input tokens. You can see all of that information. If you're really into your LLMs and all of that kind of stuff, you can tweak that through the configuration. We're not going to go into that here because we're just really trying to do a nice simple skill here. So that's great. So we're going to save that. We're happy with that. We can finalize that prompt. So we'll finalize that prompt. That has now locked that prompt in. If I want to update the prompt, we click update. It'll then create a version of this prompt, and I can make the changes and then finalize that prompt. When we go to publish this, it'll ask me which prompt I want to use. So then if we've got more than one. So if we've gone through and done an update and we've got different versions, let's say which one do you want to use, and then that becomes your final prompt at that point. So that's what we need to do. So that's great. We've generated our prompt. The skill output is going to come out in JSON with these elements in it, and we'll come back to that in a bit later. We've got no tools added. We're keeping this nice and simple at the moment. Okay, so now we're going to flip over to the skill settings. We're going to jump over evaluations for now. We don't need to worry about that because we're not worrying too much. We're just doing this very simple prompt. All of this is what we specified before. We're going to leave that alone. Now we're going to go down to the deployment settings. Now, when you're dealing with the Now Assist panel, so if we go into, let's go, so that's obviously the plugin called Now Assist Skill Kit. Make sure you've got that loaded. I've got version 2 loaded. So if we go into our Now Assist admin, so if we go back to home, so this is the Now Assist admin panel. Hopefully you're familiar with this because you've set up some of the other out-of-the-box Now Assist capabilities. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding our feature, so our skill, to the creator workflows set of skills. You can see I've already got one here that's active, but to do that, what we do is we go back to our skill. We're going to pick the workflow. So from that list here are your workflows. Might be tempted to pick other. At the time of recording, maybe I've not set something up correctly, but when I pick other, I can't then make the skill active. But that's probably something I've done. But for now, just to keep this nice and simple, we're going to pick creator and we're going to pick a feature. Now you'll see I've got one here already called Customer Query Custom. Maybe we could have given it a better name. But if I want to give it a new feature, so the feature, if we go back to here, feature is the tile that you see here. So I've got my Customer Query Custom, particular one that's here. So wrong window. So I'm going to pick Customer Query Custom. If I want to create a new one, I just click Create New Feature and fill in the details. It's simple as that. So we're going to go use Creator and Customer Query Custom, and we can save that, and then we can do. Now we've got a choice here. We can do both, but I'm just going to use the UI action. Now, actually, I'm not going to do it on this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Home, and I'm going to pick up the query that I'm actually using. So it's got the same prompt as you saw before, but I'm up to version 12 on this one. So I keep making little changes, and that's what you'll need to do. You'll need to play with it and get it working just how you want. So create a Custom Query Custom, which we saw earlier. Now, I'm going to create a UI action for this. Now, to do that, you need to specify the table you want the UI action against. So in this case, it's my client query table. So the same table as what we're using as part of the data feed for the skill. Click link. So I'll just wait for the UI action. Now, it will generate you an out-of-the-box UI action. Now, the UI action won't actually do much. Well, obviously, it will send the data off to the LLM to run the skill, but all it will do is extract the data that comes back and show it as a prompt at the top of the screen. But we want to do a little bit more with that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down. So this part is out of the box. I haven't changed that. It's got the capability and skill config. When you're looking at the skill in the skill kit, you'll see in the URL at the top, it'll have the capability ID. You'll be able to match those up, and you'll see how those have come together. And then what it'll do, this is where I've made the change. So this part is out of the box. So all it's saying is send the request that we've generated here off to the LLM and get the response back. That's out of the box. Now obviously it's putting this piece on the end here, so you always get at least an empty JSON if it didn't work for any reason, so it's not going to sort of bomb out at that point. Now, what I suggest is if you have a look at the data that comes back, you'll see it comes back with quite a big JSON. It's got lots of information in there that's going to tell you all sorts of stuff, but we want to pick out the response that came back. Now to do that, the response that comes back is in the form of a string. So we then need to parse that. So here you'll see this line here where I'm saying my value response is response capabilities, the ID, which is up the top in this script, and then the response field that comes back. But that response field value, I've asked for it as a JSON, but it could be string, could be other things that come back from the LLM. So I then need to then parse that string to generate the output that I need. So, but actually there's two steps. You'll see here. So I've got my response, and then I need to parse the model output. As I said, run this, send the response that you get back from the LLM to a log file, and you'll see the structure that comes out. But this is what I found works. So screenshot this if you think this is useful, copy that. Let me know. I can always put it in the comments if people want me to. Now, from that, I'm going to pass the information that comes back from the LLM to the record that we're doing this for. So remember, in the table definition, I had a field called response and query type. So the response is just text. So I'm setting current.response is the parsed output an answer, because that was the field that I'm going to get back as part of that JSON. And then I'm saying current.query type. Remember that query type field. I'm setting the value. I can't just do query type equals. It just didn't work. If you do set value and then pass in the classification. Now remember, because I asked the LLM to give me the values that I have as my lookup values within this table, I can just do this straight away. If I'm going to get anything else back, and this is key when you're doing testing, maybe I need to put some sort of translation, bit of code in to translate the values. But in this case, I'm making sure the values come back exactly as I want. So, and then I'm just updating the record. And that's it. So that's part of my UI action. Now, as you can see from this is all done in script. So I could take this UI action and possibly make it into a workflow. Maybe in the Flow Designer, I can do those, because these are all running server side. So Flow Designer should be able to execute that. And maybe we'll do that as another episode within what we're going to do here. So for now, we're just going to use the UI action, keep it nice and simple. Make sure you've got it active, and you'll also see here this condition is going to check whether the skill is active. Now we'll do that next. So make sure that's active. I want a form button. I could have it to contact me and form link. You choose how you want it to work, and then you specify those various pieces up here. So we're going to hit update on that one. Now that's great. I would now need to publish. I've already published because it says here I published it, but you hit publish to make sure it's all been published, so it's ready to go. Once you've published it, now and I'm going to hit publish again, what it'll do is, for me, because I've already published it, it says, I need to finalize at least one prompt. Now, I don't need to do that again, but if I got that and it's come up and I think, why is it doing it and I haven't published? Just simply go and update your prompt and create a new version. So I'll do it here. So I'll update prompt. You'll see now I've got version 13. And I'm going to finalize this new version. So I'm going to make it the default, hit finalize. And then I'm going to hit publish. And it's going to say, do you want me to replace your version 12 with the version 13? I say yes. And that's now done. That's now published the latest version of my prompt. So, I could be working on a new version while the skill is being used and just update it at the end. Now I'm just going to go back and double check that my UI action is still active. I always just like to double check that, because you know what it's like when you're doing this. We'll get to the end and it's not active. Yep, that is now active. Great. So let's go back to our skill. Now that's great, but that still won't show up on my form because I have one step left to do. Now obviously on mine I've already done this, so I'm just going to walk you through as if we hadn't done that. So I've come into the Now Assist admin, Now Assist features. I'm going to go to creator. Now if you put yours somewhere else, go to that section and you'll see a lovely pink one showing that it's custom. I can view the details and I could then from here make it active. Now you can see I can go into the skill, we'll bring it up, and I can just go through and make that active. And that's what we need to do, save and continue. Great. We would just make it active at this point. Now, we've now created a skill. We've created a UI action to activate that skill. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to have a look at it and see how it works. So let's go back to our app. So here we go. Here's our app from earlier. We've got our skill kit, test application. As you can see, I've built a workspace. I just use Workspace Builder because that just makes it nice and simple. I haven't done anything fancy with it. I've just defined the form layout first before I built the workspace. Now we could go in and add some more stuff. I've done a load of videos on how to modify this. So what we're going to do is let's just go to the list. here's my particular query, and look, I have my customer query button. Now, if for any reason that button's not there, make sure that the UI action is active, and make sure you've published or made active the skill in the Now Assist admin section, because unless they're both active, it won't work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run this. So if I hit this button, what we'll do is we'll take the query that we've generated here, send it off to the LLM, get the response back, and then update these two. So let's run that now. There we go. And that was nice and quick. So that sent it off and then come back. As you can see, it's come back with an answer, and it could tell it was a request for information. Now, we could change that and maybe come up with some different ones that's maybe a complaint or something like that. But we've used the LLM to generate a response for that. Now, if I wanted to, I could take that output as part of my application, generate an email, and send that back to the person who's made the request. Great. So I've now fully automated somebody sending in a request for some information. I've got the LLM to generate a response back. Maybe it's a holding response saying, thank you for your response, blah, 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 blah. But we can make it a little bit more personable because we're using the LLM to make it feel a little less generic, and send that back to the user while we then create a ticket or do something with it as part of our application. And that's it. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have, please like, subscribe to the channel. I've been trying to put out more videos, but time runs away with you from time to time, and it's Christmas at the moment, bit busy, but there we go. So yes, please like and subscribe, leave comments below, because that really helps with the, as they all YouTubers say, it helps out with the algorithm. I'll try and answer those queries that you have as part of this, and I'll then start to record some more videos on how we then maybe use the skill kit to generate some slightly more advanced skills using more data within ServiceNow, and how we can do a workflow to kick off a skill. So thanks everybody, appreciate your time watching this video right into the end. It's great. Thank you again.